Hey guys, it's me, and today I'm in Oklahoma City, and we're gonna walk through the memorial if you want to go with me. There's the bathroom. I might make y'all a little dizzy, sorry. It says Oklahoma City National Memorial and Museum. And there's that. It says children were a significant part of the worldwide response in April 1995, responding with words of encouragement and messages of hope for rescue workers especially, and Oklahomans in general. Thousands of ceramic tiles were sent to Oklahoma in 1995. A sample of these tiles is now a permanent part of the Oklahoma City National Memorial. What was it, guys?
We're gonna go to the museum first before we go out here.
Okay.
That way you see what you're looking at. What used to be there.
Jay is our host today.
Yeah. 73701.
You have lost too much.
What kind of tickets do you need today?
Now what do you got? Just a walker deal?
We've got an adult, senior, military student.
What about firemen?
The degree is complicated.
What about firemen? They got military?
Now this is a place of peace and remembrance.
Well, I'm 5.
I certainly hope people that visit the site will go away with a resolve to do everything they can to ramp it up.
Visiting the beautiful facility in Oklahoma City is not for the faint of heart, but I do think it should be a right of citizenship.
It's an obligation of adulthood to make society better, to make life better for the people around you.
Museum.
They're not live in work on this year, huh?
We don't have that in mind.
If
you are somebody who wrong, how do you react?
Sorry, did you say your name together?
I know the lessons of our movie and the price that the people here pay.
I used to do the 5K my bunker gear. I got trained up with them.
We're told
Yeah, I broke my leg. I'm glad I'm not doing it.
this person.
No matter what happens in your life, no matter who comes in and tries to destroy you, or they succeed in destroying you, you still have that upper.
We come here to remember those who were killed, those who survived, and those changed forever. May all who leave here know the impact of violence. May this memorial offer comfort, strength, peace, hope, and serenity.
at a time.
Whenever you're ready, follow it.
And do you have the maps as well?
Oh, here somewhere.
They are required to be worn while you're in the museum, just to let you guys know. We have our security team that is trained in first aid. It is a self-guided museum. You're going to start on floor 2, work your way down to floor 1, lobby here to exit, restroom from left.
We got popcorn and stuff up here?
No, no snacks in the museum. Thank you.
Yep. Stupid mask, I got on my chin, that's far enough. That bomb didn't kill me. This first part's freaky.
Why?
You'll see when we get in there, make you sit down, you're like in a meeting.
Oklahoma City is the courage and comfort you found in one another. It began with the rescue. It continues with this memorial. It is recorded in this museum.
Unfortunately, in our world today, violent terrorism is no longer such an unfamiliar event.
We need to be awake and aware. We have to continue to be American at the same time.
What Oklahoma City did, beyond seeking justice, beyond remembrance, was revive itself, rebuild itself, restore itself.
I know one thing the country figured out, that Oklahomans are really, really good people. And they figured out to do what we're doing.
Today, a renewed and confident city shares the lessons of its experience with all the country. With you. This museum believes there can be, there must be, better ways for all of us to overcome violence, fearing about you and to restore the water resources board. As you walk through our residence, journey how you can help make your world live as
What was it, babe? Oh my goodness.
When I was trying to get in the Navy, I got to go from over there, over here to get ready. Back over there. I'm like, I was like 6'9", trying to get away from my husband, this shit I had. I didn't go over here and get on the stairstep view on the bus before, and then I walked.
On April 19, I was working for the Oklahoma Water Resources Board, as I am now, and my position there was staff attorney. And part of my duties as staff attorney at the Water Resources Board was to hold hearings and serve in the role as hearing examiner for
It's a Oklahoma State agency and deals with all aspects of water. They set the water quality standards for the state of Oklahoma. They do all of the permitting of water rights.
Our office building, of course, just across the street from the Bureau of Federal Building.
I remember getting up that morning and going to work. We had recently moved our place in the water board building, and so our offices were in a little bit of a different location.
On the morning of April 19th in 1995 at 9 o'clock, we had scheduled a groundwater use application proceeding where a landowner from Love County, Oklahoma was requesting groundwater to start up a bottled water company.
We wanted to get a water permit. My dad had had his water tested, and we knew he had good water.
Well, I came up to be with my dad and my sister and my brother, and we were going to go up to Oklahoma City to get a clearance and some kind of water board permission for my dad to sell water off his land.
Come to find out, I had some good water on my plate, and that's the reason why I was trying to get the permit to get water, so I could sell water.
And generally some neighbors who are interested in how that water is going to be used protest and attended as well.
We had a neighbor that was very concerned that if we was pulling water out of the ground, that we would use up the water and he wouldn't have enough water, but that's why we were there.
And that hearing was scheduled for 9 o'clock.
Lou Claver was doing the hearing. She started at 9 o'clock. And, if the government's late, doesn't do anything right. She started on time.
That morning I was working in my office. I was up on the 3rd floor getting ready for the hearing, but the hearing actually was held on the 1st floor directly across from the Murrah buildings. It was an interior room.
We went on back into the conference room, and we just sat down, and then the lady comes in and she announces that they're getting ready to hold the meeting.
And we tape record all our proceedings in case they're appealed. We transcribe them for court. So we had turned the tape recorder and just gotten the hearing underway where I was explaining how we were going to proceed and what the applicant would need to establish in order to get a groundwater permit.
Oh, there's the door.
The hearing is about to begin. Please join us in the Water Resources Board. This hearing will begin in approximately 30 seconds.
That's actually tape recorder and everything is in that room and desk and all that.
That's kind of an old tape recorder.
This is Wednesday, April 19th, 1995. It's a hearing for program protesting groundwater application number 94501. Roy Eveline Winkle. Okay. It's 9 a.m. Hearing examiner at Blue Light.
Good morning. We're going to open the record in this proceeding with regard to application 95-501 for a groundwater permit. My name is Lou Claver, and I've been designated by the 9-member Oklahoma Water Resources Board to serve as the hearing examiner in this matter. Basically, my job here today is to gather facts, all the information I can with regard to this application, to determine whether to recommend to the board that they grant this permit. Basically what happens is we'll present evidence from the applicant, ask questions, hear from the protestants with regard to why the application shouldn't be granted, and I take all of that information under advisement and draft up what's called a findings of fact, conclusions of law, and a proposed order, which will be mailed to all the parties about 15 days before the Oklahoma Water Resources Board meets. They actually, they sit in this room and discuss the application and vote whether to approve or deny the application. So they're the decision makers. And you'll receive a copy of my proposed recommendation and can attend that board meeting and present your information directly to them or arguments directly to the 9-member board. They generally meet the second Tuesday of every month. So you'll be advised of that. With regard to this proceeding, basically there are 4 elements that I have to receive information regarding.
Everybody go see out here. Out! Watch the electricity line! Watch the line! Big out!
Pretty wild, huh?
Jesse, if you are, as the chopper goes around the side of the federal building, look at that shot. It is absolutely incredible. The side of the federal building has been blown off. Jesse?
About a third of the building has been blown away. And you can see just smoke and debris and fire on the ground, downtown on the ground. It's devastating. And we are uncertain what caused this movement at the time. After 9 o'clock, it was going as far away as Channel 9. That's good, at least 5 miles from downtown.
Hey, we heard it needed.
Huh?
We heard it needed.
Thick smoke still coming from the building and on the ground. I can see. It looks like part of the building is big.
They're on the top of the street.
Away. We'll have the background to the other side so I can get a better view of it. But there's heavy damage downtown.
I was at the BIA when it happened.
Really? They said that right down too. They never couldn't get around it.
We have it blocked off now. It used to not be when this happened, but after that we started putting pillars where you couldn't stay in the front of the building. And then they made it where the back was locked and shut, where you had to have an access code to get in and out the back. And I remember one of my friends was calling because her mom was supposed to be at work, but she got stuck in traffic. She was about a block away whenever it went off because she was running late that day.
It's devastating. And we are uncertain what caused this movement at the time. And after 9 o'clock, it was going as far away as Channel 9. That's good, at least 5 miles from downtown.
Numerous injuries, and obviously, by the looks of the Nora building, numerous fatalities.
A huge bomb went off on that side of the building. That's exactly what it looks like. Also, all of the glass is blown out of the federal courthouse. Several people have been walking out of the federal courthouse covered in blood. And that building is devastated. Certainly, people that were in the room on that one side of the building, it would be unlikely they would survive because it is just a mess.
situation at the Alpha Female appears to be almost total.
The police emergency vehicles are all over the place. Traffic is at a standstill at this time.
Virtually every building that
The streets are still
Down the fire escape, you could just see people with blood. There's still explosions going on. You could hear screaming and crying. All of a sudden, I didn't know what had happened, but I knew that I was basically buried under some rubble. It felt like a ton of bricks had just hit me in the center of my head. Girls that was in the office with me literally disappeared. And I could feel my hands in the air and my body just vibrating. Popping, and the floors were hitting each other. The floor broke off into a V and fell, and I fell with it at the bottom of it.
I had sticking out of the pile.
And the rubble just sort of fell in and packed up on top of it.
They kind of arched like that, and the three of us were underneath that.
The detonation of the bomb actually cut me off from getting myself out of the office.
Pretty weird. We was in Joplin, we had that big tornado over there. And there was like an apartment building. And in the corner there was a closet. The closet door was open. And there was hangers in there, but all the clothes had been stripped off.
Dang.
You could see clothes laying on the floor, but the hangers wasn't in. They was still, it just sucked them hangers. Clothes right off the hangers.
We were buried, but we didn't really know it.
Next thing that I can piece together or recollect was hearing a voice saying, "Hang on, I'll be back."
We all started to yell at each other and find each other and ask each other if we were all right.
Next thing I remember, after this voice said, "Hang on, I'll be back," was someone picking me up, literally like a baby, and carrying me what was out the window.
Some of my coworkers who was gravely and as it turned out was fatally injured.
Dennis Purefoy managed to get over to where the supervisor was and tried to help her out.
At that time, the mover couldn't move her, so we decided to go to the light and see if we could get some help.
Two of the GSA maintenance guys appeared in the stairwell window just outside of where I was standing.
While we heard some other of our coworkers calling, and we called back to them and we helped them climb up on the same rubble pile that we were on. There were three of our coworkers.
I laid on one of my legs and reached as high in the air as I could possibly reach, and they were able to grasp my wrists and pull me up into the stairwell window where they were.
I got down to 4th Street and looked at the murder building. I realized that the courthouse wasn't the issue, the murder building was the issue, and that's where my son was in the daycare center. This other law clerk and myself ran across the plaza, tried to get in, and did get in that south side of the murder building.
My first thought was PJ was hurt, and I panicked.
I didn't know what to think about Blake, but I felt like that we were walking on the solid, and I felt like my floor is Blake's ceiling. So yeah, he's probably okay. Of course, I thought, he's shaking up, he's hurt, but I kept saying his name, and I gotta find him.
In my mind, I knew PJ was hurt, but I felt he was alive.
There was no more second floor. There was just this big empty space.
When I reached the hall,
I could see that there was no way out the front door. The rubble was everywhere.
Closer and closer, I could tell that something really horrible happened.
Smoke, and I knew that it was near the Y or the Y. I hollered at them to get the kids out.
Teacher, I saw a mouth going, and I couldn't hear anything. I saw it going like that.
This is having the children come to me.
20 non-critical patients. We have one patient who is critical. We need medical supplies on the...
And I got to the corner of Robinson and 6th, and I was looking for the children in the daycare center. He came running. So he came running across the street, and we decided we'd try to find Blake. When I got down there, I was like, I'm looking for the children in the daycare.
We're taken to a Red Cross location on Lincoln and also to the area east of the YMCA.
They kept sending me to the YMCA daycare.
The kids, and I didn't recognize any adults. And then I finally figured out that this was the Y daycare kids, not the America's Kids
I said,
daycare.
"Not those children. The children in the daycare center in the federal building." And they said, "So wasn't there one in there?" And I said, "Yes, there was. I just dropped my daughter off."
My daughters. Why?
When I looked at the federal building, the daycare center wasn't there.
It was completely gone.
It was at that point when I saw the front side of the Moore building that my heart sank. I got pretty depressed about finding Joseph and him being okay.
This policeman kept making me go back, and I kept saying, "You don't understand. I left my babies in there this morning."
I wanted to get in to help my children. I love my children. I didn't think they were around anymore. I thought they were gone.
I remember making it down one flight of stairs, and then I collapsed. A tall man that came out of the second floor into the stairwell, and he swooped me up.
People were running down the street and they had blankets and quilts, personal things.
And I remember him hollering, "Injured, injured, let me through." And everyone got over to the side, and he carried me down.
Then they brought out Polly Nichols, who had worked down the hall from me.
It turns out I had a rather severe injury to my
There were
neck.
several people working on her, and one thing I could hear them saying is, "This one needs to go now."
I was able to find 5 of my staff members before we were pushed away from the area.
Charlotte.
The police wouldn't let me go back. Which I understand.
Yeah. Let's go. You put our children on there? We don't know the children.
I wanted to go back and tell them, the people that were missing, where they were.
So far, we have accounted for almost all of our people.
In my heart, I knew I would never see the girls that had been in my office in a meeting that morning. I just knew that.
I could hear people screaming, and I could hear people running, it seemed like on top of me.
And I screamed as long as I heard someone say, "We can't find you," and Nancy screamed, "You're walking on our faces." And of course I started to pray and say, "God, you know, I'm older. I'm not afraid of dying, but I don't want to die like this."
And he said, "I need to know what color blouse you have on." And I said, that's me, you have my
I
hand."
heard someone say, "Here's somebody's bag. If there's a bag here, there's a person here."
I said, "No, I need to know the color blouse you have on." And I said, "Green." And he got so excited that, it was my hand. And of course, I didn't understand that there were so many dead around that he was having to identify that this really belonged to me.
Nancy, if she was Nancy Ingram, she looked at me kind of funny and said, "Yes." I said, "Well, I found your purse. Remember that thing?"
Biggest relief in my mind was to see that man.
Fourth Street, and he said the ambulance was right there, and they went down to the daycare to get the kids. And then for a second, I thought it was down to the daycare. The daycare was up on the second floor.
Started coming across some children, and we made like a line, and we just handed them down the line.
He was like, "Hey, would you away?" And I
held him and cradled him and handed him over to Don Hall, who left with him right then, and then actually handed me Brandon Denny. I stepped in the ambulance, and there was a man laying there on the ground, and he opened his eyes, and he looked at me, and he just kind of smiled when he saw Brandon, and he opened his arms. And I laid Brandon on top of his chest, and he cupped his arms over him, and just kind of nodded to me. And he smiled, and I thought, you know, to everything, you see something great. You know, the compassion that this very hurt man had for this child.
Finally, they got my arms uncovered. Below the waist, I could not move. The stone
Discussed her condition. He said that she needed to have an IV started. And he made me realize without saying it that she was extremely critical.
And as we were working, the bomb scare came in.
I go through the rubble, and I find that stairwell, and I grab the handrail, and I just start running down the
They
stairs.
just were trying, to dig me out, and then someone came by and said that they had found another bomb, and that they needed them to pull out immediately. I said, please, my name is Amy Petty. Please tell my husband Randy I love him. Thinking that this was probably going to be it.
Talking with Daryl Edwards on the telephone. During that conversation, a loud explosion occurred, blowing me from my desk across the hall into the opposite office. It took me a minute to figure out what happened. Once I regained my senses, I heard people screaming for help. The building is basically destroyed. The DEA office is gone. There's a sheer drop-off on the outside of my office down to the 9th floor. I climbed through the wall, over some stuff, to try to see if there's any injured people. So bodies and DES, I can't find any. I got over there. I looked. If you're there and trapped under the rubble, I can't get any verbal responses. I tried to get in as best I could, but I can't.
And then a few seconds it took me to get to my assignment editor to tell him that John Hanson said there's been an explosion downtown. For the first I knew my feet shook. It's just such a loud, careful sound. It's not going to see me for that. Come back on me. I felt the force of these flies came up off the ground. So you are I looked up and the sky.
Because of all the broken glass.
It's supposed to be a long hallway, and there's no hallway there. Around the fire escape, you just see people with blood everywhere.
People there on the sidewalk, hurt, and bleeding.
There's still explosions going on. You can hear screaming and crying. All of a sudden, I didn't know what had happened, but I knew that I was basically buried under soil.
Places. Get there as quickly as you can.
All the officers sent me, and
I remember everybody on the plane talking about how this
behind this devastation, the pictures were unbelievably harrowing. It was unfathomable to me.
Hospitals have been inundated with casualties. And Barnaheimin félagsmálastofnunar borgarinnar var í húsi.
By the standards of a Europe used to terrorist bombing, US federal buildings are easy targets open to the public with minimum security.
The Oklahoma City situation, the repercussions being felt clear across the country today, tight security at hundreds of federal buildings.
I remember it being very chaotic, that something had happened, and that we had to go back on the air because it was at 9:02.
The whole world was watching.
right now. It wasn't just in the United States.
When you explain that, miles away.
There were a lot of terrorist incidents happening, but I never, in my wildest imagination, thought that that was going to happen in the United States. It just didn't even enter my mind.
It was one of those things that we were eyewitnesses of as it unfolded.
It's like a war zone down there.
I was in the Oval Office, and I watched the president's chief of staff walk over to the president, and he bent over and said something in Clinton's ear. He said, well, we got a
What was it, Jay?
They executed McVeigh.
Oh my goodness.
It was very confusing as far as what happened. And I couldn't get very close, which bothered me. You know, I wanted to get as close as I could.
And I'm not proud of it, but my first reaction was this must be someone in the
Some of
Middle
our
East.
experts concurred that this was done by some foreign terrorists.
Initial speculation is Arab terrorism, Muslim terrorism.
Two Middle Eastern men.
We'd had the first World Trade Center bombing by then, and so that was my first thought.
All of a sudden, it became clear that this was homegrown American terrorism, and it was shocking. This rescue continues.
Motivation, who would do this kind of despicable act.
We watched the White House as soon as it went from gas explosion to terrorist attack, spring into action.
Welcome back to CNN's live continuing coverage. We are preempting our regular programming. Clinton was meeting with Turkey's Prime Minister Çiler less than an hour after the explosion when he cut the news out.
The bombing in Oklahoma City was an attack on innocent children and defenseless citizens. It was an act of callous, and it was evil. The United States will not tolerate, and I will not allow the people of this country to countenance our evil characters.
I'm Brian Williams, NBC Nightly News, New York.
I'm Katie Curtis. I'm Tony Chung in New York.
I'm Charles Gibson from ABC's World News.
Good morning, everyone. It is a scene of great chaos in downtown Oklahoma City after the federal courthouse building in Oklahoma City.
They said, get over there, get there as quickly as you can.
We called the office and said wait. And they didn't.
So we got on a plane and flew out there, and I remember everybody on the plane talking about how could this happen?
Land was devastation. The pictures were unbelievably harrowing. It was unfathomable.
Explosion in downtown Oklahoma City this morning.
In Europe, used to terrorist bombing, U.S. federal buildings are easy targets of which the public minimum security. The Oklahoma City situation, repercussions being felt clear across the country today, tightened security at hundreds of federal buildings.
I remember it being very chaotic and something that happened and that we had to go back on the air because it was at 9:02.
The whole world was watching right now. It wasn't just in the United States. But I never, in my wildest imagination, thought that that was going to happen in the United States. It just didn't enter my mind.
And I said, Don, could we come and use your dining room? He said, let's meet with the families. About 3 o'clock, we had their staff with about 50 filmmakers who were not representing themselves as filmmakers, only representing themselves as representatives of the medical protector's office. It became apparent that other groups were going to want to be able to give services to the family. The American Red Cross, Pride, Salvation Army. We began getting some mental health people in. We began getting some members of the clergy in. And so the family center started to take shape.
They're asking you to physically go to the First Christian Church. There's a family assistance center set up where you can get the information you're looking for.
Families need to send representatives there to learn about missing loved ones.
These people you see behind me, all these people are trying to find loved ones who were out in the federal building when it blew up. Yes, Jennifer and Mitch with us right now at the Cooper family, and we're here at the First Christian Church, and we've got a picture of little Antonio. He is 6 months old. Renee, if you could just show us. First of all, just tell me what you've gone through for this day.
We've just been hopping around the city trying to find out if John Doe baby is ours, and we've come up negative every time.
The word from the hospital is possibly that they do have an unidentified 6-month-old baby. We're still on hold on the phone. That's what I've been told. So we just wait. They're just holding on to that hope that possibly this young child could still be alive. The building is now illuminated. They've got spotlights on the building. There is a large crane in front of it. This is all part of the search efforts. They are not giving up efforts tonight. They are not giving up hope. They are searching. They have brought in heavy equipment, obviously brought in portable lights and generators, and fire department officials and rescue crews are going through the building.
And another thing you got to remember too is it's a crime scene, and you don't want to disturb evidence. For our friends in law enforcement, not only help with the patient care, they have to start thinking about, what in the world caused this?
And that was one thing me and the FBI agent had a lot of discussion about early on. Out the street, walking back and forth on the street, and they tell me, don't touch nothing, don't do anything. And what do you think we're going to do with all these people, all this fire we've got? We've got to do something. And we had this discussion a few minutes before we finally decided we're going to have to work together.
There you see ATF agents, FBI agents about to go into the area there. They will be sifting through this rubble for the next several days. Of course, Oklahoma City fire and rescue people, they are trying to find people alive inside the building. You see the ATF people there looking outside there. You see one of the FBI agents bending down and looking at something there on the street in front of the Borough building. Any little thing could provide a big clue as the investigation continues into who did this and exactly what type of device was used.
I have to tell you, there is some more encouraging news here tonight. I just spoke with one of the rescue workers who has just come out of the federal building. He says that there is one woman who is in the basement. She's pinned in there, and they can hear her, they can talk to her. She tells them that there are 2 other people. She doesn't know if they are dead or alive that are also in the basement with her, and they are right now working on trying to devise a plan to get her out, but it's going to take some time, they say. So that is the word here from the federal building tonight.
The wind has picked up out here and it's pouring down rain. The wind is blowing and there you can see various things falling off this building. This is turning into an extremely dangerous situation now for people who are still alive inside that building and for the people trying to rescue them.
Instead of taking full footprint of the building and trying to work.
Governor Keating, if you could step this way again, we want to find out the latest from you on what you know about the rescue efforts down there. We just talked with that rescue worker who said that there's that woman trapped in the basement and they're working to get her out. Maybe 2 other people alive down there with her, we don't know.
Yeah, which is fabulous news. If we can find 2 or 3 more, just 2 or 3 more incrementally, find some people in pockets, obviously that's a miracle if we can do it.
We still have a number of casualties in the building. There's triage areas set up. There are temporary morgues set up.
The area that's in here is the area that's collapsed, about 50% of the building. When you get out in here, this corner of the building is real unstable.
The expectations that we were having as far as survivors, we never lost them. as we arrived, we were met by some folks from Oklahoma City that told us that they had just pulled another person out of the building, which turned out to be the last survivor that was pulled out.
We had a victory just a moment ago. We were able to rescue a 15-year-old out of the basement that had been trapped all day. To do that, we had to do a lot of body removing and debris removing. That's a victory, Ted, and that's something that that really lifted the spirits of the rescue workers here.
You don't give up hope. It's just like, you know, after 4 hours, we weren't finding anybody alive. What, about 10 that night, you know, they did find the other girl in there, and that raised hope. And I thought, well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we'll find some more.
But that did buoy the spirits a little bit. That okay, if we got one at 9:30, then maybe we can get one out later on.
Your Phoenix. I want to thank you guys for coming out.
One of the Christians was the Phoenix Fire Department king, and I just want to give him a hug. So thanks for being here.
So
at that point,
thinking about what can I do?
that adrenaline just about run out, and we need some fresh ideas, some fresh faces. Somebody come out and pat you on the back and say, we're going to stand here with you through this.
Right now we've got some negligence on FEMA that are going up and down an elevator that's being provided by the cranes. Doing another survey, there's stuff from the labs experts. And they're helping us to identify void areas where we possibly may have some survivors.
Advanced recovery. This team of technicians that around the clock for a couple of days, they were able to simulate the destruction that happened by also relating to what was still standing. And so that then gave a sense of where gravity and explosion would pull everything that was in harm's way.
The maps really came in useful in the search and recovery effort.
That instead of taking the full footprint of the building and trying to work your way around, gave a more quantitative basis for the search and where to go first.
We were told that most victims were found within 15, 20 foot square of the last known location.
The word we got back is that did accelerate the finding of folks in that instance that had perished.
And they knew how the building collapsed.
The power of the bomb went out like this off of the truck.
The blast blew it up like this, and then the rebar gave way underneath.
The rebar's hanging out, then the rebar gets flattened like that.
And it fell straight down.
It hits like that and fractures and comes down and everything. Cascades, the slabs come down and cascade down.
The actual rubble pile size was around 7,000 square feet of rubble. 55,000 square feet of office space collapsed into 7,000 square feet of rubble.
It looked like an office building that had been put in a giant vegetable processor and just spit it back out.
The pancake area, the average size of the average floor was packed, I measured so I would never forget, was a distance between the palm of my hand and my elbow.
So you could go in there and not have any reference point to where you were.
Everything in that floor would be in that distance, including the people.
The meaning of that, I think, was brought home when one of the families, a woman whose son had died in the murder building, expressed to those technicians that you let me hug my son one last time. So many of us in Oklahoma and probably across the world were thinking about, what can I do? We had an outlet.
The software and the hardware we use every day.
We were using it for locating telephone lines, usually underground. As input came in as to where people were located, would there be a way, if you're able to get input as to what the floor plans were of the building itself, could you simulate what then happened that would then perhaps advance the recovery effort somewhere? This team of technicians that went around the clock for a couple of days, they were able to simulate the destruction that happened by also relating to what was still standing. And so that then gave a sense of where gravity and explosion would pull everything that was in harm's way.
The maps really came in useful in the search and recovery effort.
That instead of taking the full footprint of the building and trying to work your way around, gave a more quantitative basis for the search and where to go first.
We were told that most victims were found within 15, 20 foot square of the last known location.
Or that did accelerate the finding of folks in that instance that had perished.
And they knew how the building collapsed.
The power of the bomb went out like this off of the truck.
The blast blew it up like this, and the rebar gave way underneath.
The rebar's hanging out, the rebar's hanging out, the rebar.
We went to Oklahoma to assist in a horrible situation that centered around death and destruction, but we went home with the life lessons of how a community should react to adversity. Dennis Compton, Arizona Task Force 1.
McVeigh is arrested for state vehicle and weapons violations. He's transported to the Noble County Jail in Perry, Oklahoma. No connection exists between him and the bombing. Marcia Moritz, the jailer on duty that morning, notices something unusual during his booking.
When I fingerprinted it, he was not nervous. He was not sweating like a lot of people are.
Nothing seemed to interest him. Not even the television coverage of the bombing, playing in the jail.
Didn't have any emotion. No emotion.
In an unusual scheduling change, it would be days before McVeigh would see a courtroom for his arraignment over a traffic stop.
Oklahoma Highway Patrol arrested a boy on the morning of the bombing. They said they stuck with him in jail. Did you check on that?
And I checked Jello and informed him, we had.
I said, okay, Sheriff, can you give me his name? And I'll never forget, he goes, yes, there's Timothy James McVeigh. Just as plain as day.
And at that point, he hollered, they got him in Perry.
And I yelled, we got him. We've got him. And the room just erupted.
At the courthouse in Perry, Judge Dan Allen, now aware of the interest in McVeigh at the highest levels, holds the traffic stop arraignment as planned.
I just knew that given the gravity of the case, that if he were, that everyone would want to make sure that everything was done correctly. His rights would be protected paramountly.
You're innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And I didn't have a right to sit there and question about anything, so it was strictly by the book. And I didn't ask him no questions, and he didn't give any information out.
The arrest is big news. Media begins to converge on Perry. No one outside the courthouse knows anything about McVeigh, not even what he looks like.
And we cover all Noble County.
Gloria Brown, the editor of the Perry Daily Journal, is handling the story for her paper. Only later, when she realized she had seen him at the courthouse.
And I do remember riding up in the elevator with him one day. And I remember focusing on the young man, and he was very clean cut. And I kept thinking, I wonder why he's going to jail. What could he have done that he would be going to jail?
Word travels that a suspect is in custody. More people gather on the courthouse square while McVeigh waits in courtroom B. And Perry, Oklahoma attracts more attention than it wants or needs.
I was a little nervous. I was concerned. I had a small child, and I didn't know. The first thing that came to my mind was, is anybody else going to come to Perry? He's been housed here. You think about all those things.
Agents will move the suspect to Oklahoma City for federal arraignment on bombing-related charges. As McVeigh leaves the Noble County Courthouse, the crowd makes its feelings known.
Crowd got up really quick.
Baby killer. That's the one thing that stood out in my mind.
I heard the crowd start hollering baby killer and all this, and I'm thinking, I hope somebody don't start shooting.
With Timothy McVeigh now in federal custody, attention quickly turns to a second participant in the bombing. Harrington, Kansas is much like Perry, Oklahoma. Main Street is paved with family values and quiet living. So it seems unbelievable that someone involved in the planning of the Oklahoma City bombing could be living in the wood-framed house on South 2nd Street. On the same day McVeigh is transported from the Noble County Jail, Terry Nichols hears his name mentioned in radio news reports about the bombing. He believes he's being followed by federal agents. He goes to Harrington Police to find out why. FBI agents arrive, question him for hours, and arrest him early the next day.
He wasn't from here. Very few people knew him. And I think that's what bothered people a lot. A fellow that would do such a thing, surely he would stand out. And he didn't. And that was the scary thing. That somebody that was an ordinary guy
The arrest is big news. Media begins to converge on Perry. No one outside the courthouse knows anything about McVeigh. Not even what he looks like. Gloria Brown, the editor of the Perry Daily Journal, is handling the story. Only later, she has seen him at the courthouse. gathered on the Courthouse Square. While Miss Bailey, you can even see this picture. And Perry, Oklahoma attracts more attention than it wants to need.
First thing that came to my mind was each of us brings something that's significant. We really found our religion candlelight with each other.
We share your hope against hope that some may still survive. Some of you today are going through heartache and grief so intense that you wonder if it'll ever go away. But I've known something of the strength and the courage and the character of people that live in Oklahoma. And so with this service today, we stand together to say, let the healing begin.
What I think it really feels is the energy of millions and millions of people think about success. They want to see something out of their lives much as you do. And that's tremendous thing.
At the present time, we have recovered and have the medical damage office 74 individuals. Of those 74, the pandemic picture are 6.
We have heavy equipment operators removed debris. Oklahoma City Fire Department is a 1,000-person department. What we didn't have were the technical search, acoustic, and seismic listening devices. We didn't have the cameras and things that would under void.
What they were facing were the severely attuned victims in the building, and that's where the requirement for some very specialized capability was needed, and that's exactly what the USAR teams bring.
I'm here. You're standing on it, and that's one stick.
We had 40,000 pounds of equipment that we brought with us.
That there was supposed to be eight bodies located in a particular area, and sure enough, we immediately started finding people that had not been found before in that immediate area.
Rescue efforts have gone very well overnight. We still have an extra shift of Oklahoma City firefighters in. We're going to continue that as long as the structure and the weather cooperate with us.
We worked directly under the Oklahoma City Fire Department. They had a presence on the pile with us at all times.
Everything that was removed was being sifted for evidence by law enforcement. So the building was literally taken apart in 5-gallon buckets. We divided the big rocks and stones and debris from the piles. Then we took the dust and the gravel and sifted things out of it to find what we needed.
It took no more than watching the Oklahoma City firefighters to get enough strength and courage and ability to go forward every day, no matter how much sleep or anything that you had.
The pressure was so intense. Everybody was just so worn down, but I guess the drum, everybody just kept going.
Everybody just rose to the occasion and did what was required.
The church turned out to be an exceptionally good facility to offer to the families a supportive, encouraging, nurturing nest that they could wait in.
And we all formed real tight bonds during that period and cried together and laughed together.
And we shared their sadness and everything. So I think that was real wonderful.
I can remember the drive from our home down to the church every morning. Is this what we're going to be doing for the rest of our lives? We're going down here waiting to find out.
There were people who needed to be able to begin grieving by actually being notified. That was they wouldn't grieve until that point because there was still hope that somewhere under there their loved one would be found.
Finally, we went to the church on that 13th day, and we ate breakfast down there. We sat and visited, and we figured it was the same old routine. We were getting ready to leave, and they walked over and asked me to, if I would come upstairs with them and meet with them.
And then that Friday morning, would have been the second Friday after the bombing, I got the call from First Christian Church that I needed to come down.
And every notification team had a clergy person, had a mental health representative, a psychologist or psychiatrist, a counseling person, and a funeral director.
They did the notification, and then I asked everyone to leave. I asked the clergy and the medical examiner to leave so that family could express their grief, because that's something they would not have done in front of these people.
Word this morning, the efforts downtown may be shifting gears. The careful piece-by-piece search for victims will soon give way to a faster operation aided by heavy machinery. Governor Frank Keating says the operation is shifting from search and rescue to search and recovery.
There is simply no reason to jeopardize the safety or the lives of rescue workers when it appears that there simply is no chance there's anybody living in there. Obviously, some people still hope, but the likelihood is very, very remote.
I remember the day that the decision was made that we would move to recovery mode.
It was a tough decision to make.
You know, we had a briefing about it. You could hear a pin drop in the room.
I had a lot of people wondering why I didn't make it quicker, because certainly after 7 days or 8 days or 9 days, you lose quite a bit of the hope that you're going to find any more life. We went 14 days in that kind of a mode.
Probably the hardest thing about this incident is we were not able to rescue anyone from the structure.
You always had a great respect that this is somebody's family member.
We still wanted to keep that sense of dignity and to recover the rest of the people as humanely as we could.
We would extricate the bodies and get them ready to actually remove, but the Oklahoma City Fire Department, members of the Oklahoma City Fire Department did the actual removal.
We'd place them on the gurney, we'd strap them in, and then everybody would pause for a minute, and our chaplains would say a prayer for the families, for the workers. And it was our way of putting some dignity into a bad situation.
Pamela Argo, 26-year-old.
On local radio today, names of the dead.
You just wake up every morning and read the obituaries and figure out what funeral you're going to go to.
9, 10, 12 funerals in a week. Sometimes we went 2, 3 days.
I remember it was one day where it was 3 funerals that I needed to attend.
They were all someone that you had worked with, all someone that you knew well, and you wanted to go and pay your respects.
Two women working in the Federal Employees Credit Union on the 3rd floor. One was at her desk, the other standing at a file cabinet. Blakeney says he's certain that they are buried under rubble at the base of unstable pillar 22. Engineers fear removing that rubble could cause the whole building to collapse. The missing victims' families have been notified.
One gentleman came in and sat down in front of us and began to tell us that they were not able to find the coat. When we went down to the bomb site the following day, it was kind of uplifting.
We bought a cross full of flowers. The boys put fireman's hats on and went across the yellow tape and put the flowers on the pile where my mom had laid.
It gave us the ability to grieve privately as a family, and that was certainly very important to us.
The disaster itself was mind-boggling, but the response was from the community, from everybody that was involved in it, was overwhelming.
We were there to help them, and they just couldn't do enough for us.
We were feeding, 10 to 20,000 people a day, 24 hours a day.
We were hurt. A lot of people went to a lot of trouble to come in and help us, the citizens of Oklahoma City.
And it just seemed like the least you could do was to try to do the best for these people.
Crime actually dropped off. Our calls for service were way down. Had very few crimes reported during that time, especially the violent types of crimes that you usually experience in a city of this size.
A lot of people who watched the story unfold were surprised at the magnitude of the humanity that they saw in terms of people giving of themselves in this situation.
They were down-to-earth, friendly people who were concerned. They had no personal agenda other than to take care of us.
We had one of our guys walking around one night, and a lady stopped, who was one of the ladies cleaning tables. And she says, can I get you anything? You need anything? And he looks at her utterly incredulous, because there's absolutely nothing you could have asked for. And he's bald. And he goes, well, I could use a haircut. And he laughs and chuckles and moves on. We came in from the site the next day, and they had a barbershop set.
The kids were coming in there in the daytime, or somebody was, and laying little notes or letters from their school kids on our cot.
It was neat to read letters and notes from kids from all over the country.
The children were the ones who everyone wanted to protect, and that the children seemed to be the ones getting the most healing.
And I kept those cards as a reminder of what I am and what I do and why I do it.
We had dinner with all these teams before they left the city. This one guy stood up and took a dollar bill out of his pocket, and he waved it in front of me. He said, "Governor, do you know what this is?" Of course, the politician always recognizing money. I said, "Yeah, that's a dollar bill." He said, "No, it's an Oklahoma dollar, and an Oklahoma dollar is the dollar that I brought with me, and it's the same dollar I'm leaving with. I never had to spend a cent for anything."
Oklahoma has survived the Dust Bowl, tornadoes, busted oil prices, and four-star political scandals. Those catastrophes came with the territory. It will also survive this cowardly, outrageous act as well, but dealing with it, that will take a long, long time.
If anybody thinks that Americans are mostly mean and selfish, they ought to come to Oklahoma. If anybody thinks Americans have lost the capacity for love and caring and courage, they ought to come to Oklahoma.
That was very dangerous. That building was not secure.
The building was not structurally sound. It was very powerful to watch the building come out.
People that had somebody in the building, they're not ever going to forget it.
You have traveled with us during the weeks following the attack on our city. Please step on the elevator as you continue your journey. You will witness our people's strength and character with a renewed commitment to rebuild, seek justice, and celebrate the resilience of our city.
I'll follow you, really?
do unto others, the meaning of love. Our first response to evil must be justice. Yet a part of us is never satisfied by justice alone. We must search for more, for understanding and healing beyond punishment. When a person victims tragedy and witnesses the hope, it will overcome evil. You suffer more courage, and for that, your nation will. God bless. It's a very methodical, slow, deliberate process.
And as we rebuild successfully and fill including people in the discussion, you saw Oklahoma City totally devastated and then reborn again. And then that's what we've done as the Oklahoma City Memorial Museum, and that's what Oklahoma City stands for.
I don't think you can truly understand what it's like being from Oklahoma City unless you truly understand what occurred here for St. Martin's.
I still by myself, and I shared my daughter's death with the whole family. Westwood Park,
ATF, all of the federal agencies. The Attorney General made it clear what was going to happen, and we all got in the boat and got our horse in the water.
And of course, very rapidly, we had people in not only Oklahoma City, but we had people in Kansas, we had people in Michigan, we had people in Florida, everywhere.
It's a very methodical, slow, deliberate process to make sure you get it right. It really was still going on until the time of trial.
Was one of the major arrests of the century.
It was obvious that I was sometimes go for deep later in PTFA study on several large vehicle bomb scenes. So it was obvious that's exactly what happened.
Slow down.
So I yelled at him and said, I tell him the reason I stopped him, I shouldn't have a tag on the rear bumper. Make sure. He immediately looks to the rear bumper very quickly, looks back and makes a response. Oh, I know, I didn't have a tag, I recently bought this car, and just haven't had time to get one. Law enforcement think he stole this car. He said, do you have a driver's license? He said, yes. And when he goes to his right ear pocket, I retrieve his billfold, and I see a bulge under his left arm that appeared to be a weapon. At that time, I reached forward and grabbed the bulge on the outside of the jacket, just spinning him around, saying, get your hands up around. I drew my weapon and stuck it in the person. And instructed him to run to the trunk of his car. When we were about halfway to the trunk of his car, he says, my weapon is loaded. And so I nudged him with the barrel of my weapon in the back of his head. I said, so is mine. Spread him out on the trunk and open his jacket back, see the Glock. I remove it, put it to the shoulder of the road. I have a magazine in that weapon, throw it to the shoulder. He says, I also have a knife in the scabbard under my jacket. I see the knife, take it out, throw it to the shoulder, and I handcuff him and put him in the front seat of the car and sit down. Well, it was odd to me. I mean, I had never encountered anybody with that many weapons on them. Yeah, I'm under fire. So after I've got that, I go up to the car to search the car to see if there's anything in there that is criminal. Search the trunk of the car. Just got some trash, some hand tools. So I like the car. I'm getting halfway up to the Noble County Jail.
We're very fortunate that Trooper Allen was where he was at the time and was taking care of business. A lot of people were driven right on past that particular violation. It was one of the major arrests of the century.
So I'm speeding up the interstate and come upon this vehicle. It's the NEMTAC on the rear bumper.
Police have no idea who was the kind of suspect in the bombing. So they received a phone call from the alcohol, tobacco, and firearms agency. So they are tell me the reason for the house here belongs to her mother.
Law enforcement officials were seeking Nichols and his brother,
Terry Nichols and Timothy started serving in the Gulfstream in Fort 50, Georgia, and became best friends.
He goes to his right rear pocket to retrieve inside Nichols' home. There were anti-government documents, a phone card with calls to chemical companies, plastic barrels, and that were the same type that had been stolen from the one quarry. Workers drilled the locks and opened the doors to the powder rooms, receiving hundreds of blaster cans and other explosives. The drill bit found that Nichols' home is the same one used to destroy at least one of those locks.
we were able to identify a large quantity of ammonium nitrate that McVeigh had purchased using some known aliases. That material was stored in a series of storage facilities which we identified during the course of the investigation. We were able to identify a location where some electromethane was purchased, provides the fuel for that explosive combination.
They made the bomb at Gary Lake on the 18th of April, which was not far away from where Nichols lived.
We found high explosive residues on Mr. McVeigh's pants that he was wearing, including both of his shirts and the earplugs that he had in his possession at the time of his arrest.
We followed that.
Letters apologizing to victims. Michael Porter was released from federal prison in January of 2006 and placed on federal witness protection. Investigators found that McVeigh, Nichols, and Michael Porter had been invading but now identified with anti-government ideals. Violent encounters with and Ranch Davidian complex in Waco, Texas, where more than 70 people died, stoked the anger of militia groups, and especially that of Timothy McVeigh and Terry Nichols. The Alfred P. Merrill Federal Building was bombed on the second anniversary of the deadly fire in Waco.
Today, a federal grand jury in Oklahoma City has returned two indictments. Anthony James McVeigh and Terry Lynn Nichols are charged with the April 19th bombing of the Merrill Building in Oklahoma City. The eyes of the nation were on us. They love you. They love the FBI. We knew that a system of justice in the United States would be on trial as much as McVeigh. It was very important to show the Timmy Basin rule of law. We are not a country of tyranny. We are a country of law and process and rights.
prosecution case for the trial of Timothy McVeigh.
Real goal was to ensure that the justice is to restore faith in the jury system and the system of justice in America.
Oklahoma attorney Stephen Jones was asked to defend Timothy McVeigh.
It was a duty to self, it was a duty to defend zealously, not to go on behind our backs.
Criminal defense attorney Michael Tyler agreed to defend Terry Nichols.
An individual, yes, Terry Nichols, was summoned in to have it decided whether he will live or die. A federal court sitting in this criminal matter offered their time to transport him.
In a move that led to enduring controversy, prosecutors entered into a plea with Michael and Lori Fortier.
He was the only one that was witness today, and they were together talking about discussing any of these issues.
In exchange for the Fortier's testimony, the government agreed Fortier would not be prosecuted, and Michael would plead guilty to lesser charges related to the bomb violence.
Michael Fortier's involvement in his testimony was probably the most sensitive issue in the case. He could have said all the people, and he didn't. She could have said all those people, and they didn't. They are equally as responsible.
The lawyers for McVeigh and Nichols asked for the trial to be moved out of Oklahoma. U.S. District Court Judge Richard Mitchell agreed, relocating the trial to Denver, Colorado. But many family members and survivors couldn't stay in Denver for months, so the U.S. Congress passed a law that allowed them to watch the trial locally on a secure closed-circuit transmission, a first for a federal criminal case. The auditorium of the FAA Center near the Oklahoma City Airport would host the Sundance.
The establishment of the bill so we can monitor court proceedings involved.
For months, Denver Courthouse Plaza became a gathering place for attorneys and family members. Opening statements in the federal trial of Timothy McVeigh began on April 24th, 1997, was after the second anniversary of the bomb. The U.S. government charged McVeigh with conspiracy to use a weapon of mass destruction used to destroy him.
feel free to use it. The man in your photo comes forward and insists he is not connected to the bombing. But media speculation persists. The next day, the real bombers are identified. The man's name is clear, but his life has been turned upside down after having his name and image publicly smeared. Should you and the news media have used better judgment in sharing this image? Use your touchscreen to vote. Here are the results. How do we weigh the desire to share information in the public's interest against the ethical responsibility to take caution before sharing information that does more harm than good? The opinions here are I went to a moment of chaos and destruction. Amateur photographer Charles Porter snapped a photo of firefighter Chris Fields holding 1-year-old Bailey Almond. When he sold the photo to the Associated Press, he became a citizen journalist. The image landed in newspapers around the world and even garnered him a Pulitzer Prize.
There was a news value, I think, to that, and that it really sent a message around the world.
Important information was shared with the public, but at what cost to the family?
I had no privacy. I shared my daughter's death with the whole world. What she looked like, how she died, and it made it harder.
Today, anyone can be a citizen journalist, creating and disseminating news instantly. When weighing the public need for information against the pain an individual or family could face, do we have an ethical responsibility?
After 1995, part of that debate became, how's the family going to feel about this?
It's crazy how that tree was so little like this guy.
The spirit of this city and this nation will not be defeated. Our deeply rooted faith sustains us. Hey. I'm doing good. How about yourself? Oh no, just looking.
That thing's getting big.
It is. It's over 100 years old by now. Yeah, it grows for sure. It's been 25 years since it's long.
Sorry guys, Birdie's not good with stairs. The change of textures gets to me. We come here to remember those who It says touch to begin, but it's not beginning. Okay.
He's right about where them ladies was laying. Those last two.
It says you are now entering the area where the Alfred P. Murrell building once stood. The granite used on its pavement was salvaged from the Murrell building. The field of empty chairs is a tribute to the 168 Americans who were killed on April 19, 1995. The 9 rows represents the 9 floors of the former Murrell building. Each person's chair is positioned in the row that corresponded to the floor on which they worked or were visiting. The 5 westernmost empty chairs honor those who are killed outside the Murrell building. I think it says some words, but I can't see it.
It was like, it was like 11 o'clock, I found out anything about it when I went to work. On the radio. Yeah.
You said when you found out about it? When you found out about what, Jay? When you found out about what it wasn't until late. This?
That's it. Hello. Yeah. Alright.
So I guess they say from 9:03, from 9:01 to 9:03, that's how far the bomb.
The bomb blew up at 9:02.
Because it says 9:01 down there.